Hello, this is Dr. Jazayeri. This is my coronavirus update number 12. Today is Wednesday, April 22nd. For many of you probably know this by now, but today is Earth Day, and specifically it's the 50th anniversary of celebrating the Earth. But I'll talk to you about that later. I have a couple of really the most important current news about the coronavirus is as you know, the head of the CDC, which again, I've always respected the CDC. I think they have they've always been very neutral about how they've presented things. So they're concerned about the second wave of this virus coming in fall, which will also coincide with the flu season. So now you got the flu and the coronavirus at the same time. I don't know what's going to happen. At least we're more prepared. We kind of know more about this virus. Everybody kind of, again, the coronavirus family, part of them is part of the flu family anyhow. So this is just another addition. It's a little more aggressive. I call it the black sheep of the family. But, we're eventually going to get some herd immunity anyhow. But the immunity usually lasts about a year or two. So a vaccine really is the key to give long-term immunity, and this virus doesn't mutate as fast. So a vaccine could last many, many years. But the really potentially hot news is there's now seems to be more data that a sudden loss of smell or taste may be a key indicator of coronavirus infection. And a study recently came out of the head and neck department at University of California, San Diego. They looked at a little bit over 200 patients. So they had a control group which were not infected with the coronavirus, and they had a group that was infected with the coronavirus. The control group, about 16 to 17% of patients, so about 16 to 17, or about so about 16 out of 100, patients had loss of taste and smell, whereas in the non-control group, which was a group that was infected with the coronavirus, almost 70% had a sudden loss of taste or smell. So this was statistically significant. Even if you don't look at statistics, that's almost more than 3 times the control group. So if you do suddenly develop a sudden loss of taste or smell or a combination of both, I would definitely recommend that you go and get tested for the coronavirus, even if you're asymptomatic. So those were really the 2 big things. I was more excited about the second one. But going back to Earth Day, as you know, these pandemics are coming almost at least one every decade, it seems like. Most of them are coming from China. But it's really our practice as humans which are causing these pandemics. The viruses are not creating the pandemic. It's our behavior and what we do with all these markets. Even if you're not in China, this practice of having a large number of animals in a confined space, if you have a bacteria or virus that mutates, it could spread like wildfire. So, if you remember that movie, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, remember that part, that classic line where Jessica Rabbit says, "I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way." Well, if the coronavirus could talk, it would say, "I'm really not that bad, I've just been handled badly." And it's really the case. There are a lot of people on this planet who are trying to do good and trying to save the planet. But collectively, as a human race, we are really the pandemic for this planet. And the problem is, if you look at the more progressive countries, and usually these are Western civilization countries. So if you look at the population of United States, Canada, Europe, and maybe Australia, right? Those are, maybe add a couple of countries here and there who are more progressive. If you add all of those, it only comes to about 20 to 25% of the world population. The other 75%, they're just not with the program. And if you look at, for example, Asia, where, most of the Earth's population is in Asia. If you look at China, has 1.4 billion people. India has 1.3 billion people. you add those together, that's 35% of the world population. India right now, about 50% of the country, the labor force is doing agriculture. But more and more companies are looking at India because the cost of labor is going up in China, and there's some other issues with China. So people are looking at other countries. They've already kind of moved out. And I talked to you about this in a previous video. It'll still probably take about 20 years to get out of China. So China is not the number one country in terms of production of stuff. But if India becomes more westernized and they lose agriculture and they try to do all the stuff that China is doing, not only in terms of these pandemics, but in terms of pollution, we got a really huge problem. I mean, I'm hoping these companies will maybe add a clause that, will give you the money, the infrastructure, but you have to do green energy, for all your businesses. The problem is, when a company is publicly traded, unfortunately, they want their stock to go up. So there's always pressure on these CEOs and all these other people. And so if going green is more expensive, some of them are just saying, the hell with it, we need to save the planet. So that, there's weird, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, that's a problem. So, we just have to wait and see. Now, I'm talking a lot about this, I'm preaching. Do I have the time to make a huge difference? No, I really don't. I mean, right now, I'm not that busy, but when I get busy, I really don't have a lot of time to make a huge impact in terms of causing a movement or something. And I'm sure probably 99.9% of all of us are unable to. I mean, most of you probably work full-time just to pay the rent and the car payment and basic needs. But if you do live in the United States or any country similar to the United States, shame on you if you don't recycle, okay? And I'm shaming you because you should be ashamed. The least you can do is at least recycle. It only takes a couple of minutes. Sometimes I get home at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and most of the time I end up putting the stuff outside. I still recycle. I mean, that's the least we can do. Hopefully the other countries will realize that we need to do something. The problem, why are you so afraid right now? Why are you doing all these things? Because there is an imminent danger potentially to you, and that you could die, or you could kill somebody because you got an infection and they're old or something. Maybe we have to get to the stage that there's an imminent danger on this planet that people will really try to do something. The problem is it's probably too late by then. So, I'll probably be okay, but I don't know what's going to happen with my children and definitely my grandchildren. Now, hopefully as technology improves, maybe we can come up with some solutions. But, the least we can do is recycle. So, here we are. We have this little tiny virus that's 120 billionth of a meter. So, a meter is a little bit over 3 feet. If you divide that meter into 1 billion parts and you take 120 of those, that's the size of the virus. So here we have this virus messing with the human race, and here we have the humans messing with the planet on the 50th anniversary of this beautiful, beautiful and truly unique planet. If you look at the Earth from far away, it's just a speck of dust almost at the edge of the Milky Way, very unassuming. But it potentially has the most precious thing in the entire universe, and that is life. And there was just a recent paper that came out. There was a scientist who calculated the odds of life being created outside of, of our planet. Now, to give you a background, as you know, there was this Big Bang, there was this explosion, everything went, And as things cooled down, all these pieces started sticking to each other, and we formed planets and stars and then galaxies. And we have found out that the universe is expanding, and it expands based on the Hubble Constant, based on the astrophysicist Hubble, and we have the Hubble telescope in his honor. And now there's some debate about that constant, but let's just keep it simple. It's about 80 kilometers per second for every 3.3 million light years. So as you travel 3.3 million light years from Earth, you get an 80 kilometer per second increase. Now this is the rate of expansion of space between the galaxies. So the galaxies aren't actually speeding, it's the space between them that's exploding, expanding like a balloon, okay? So since probably because there's no mass in the space, and they call it dark energy, nobody knows what's in there, the space can expand faster than the speed of light. There's no limitation as far as we can tell. And we have found spaces between galaxies that are expanding 4 to 5 times the speed of light. And if you watch Star Trek and you know about Warp 10, I think Warp 10 was 1,000 times the speed of light. There have been theoretical designs of a spaceship where if you can expand the space around the spaceship, you can push it faster than the speed of light. Now that obviously requires a tremendous amount of energy, but because we're not breaking any laws of physics, hopefully if we're still alive on this planet, maybe in a couple of 100 years or so, maybe we can go faster, or 300 years. I mean, it is possible according to what we're seeing. So once you get to 13.8 billion light years, this is the edge of the observable universe. But we know that since that time, there have been galaxies that have moved out. And because they're expanding, or the space between them is expanding faster than the speed of light, the light from those galaxies are never going to reach us because they're moving away faster than the speed of light. The light would just die off. So this scientist said that, well, the simplest thing that could produce life is probably the RNA, the I can never say that, the RNA, which is simpler than the DNA. And so if you have a pool of this RNA, you can potentially create life, because that's the most simple thing that can potentially create life. And viruses, as you know, have pieces of either DNA or RNA, and then they attach to the cell, inject their piece in there. They use the machinery of the cell to create more copies, and then the virus copies come out and the cell bursts. And viruses have been around for at least 180 million years. We have proof of that. But for these RNA to become potentially complex enough to create life, they need to be at least 40 nanometers in length, so they need to be long enough to chain. The problem is we have tried to make these long chains, and we've tried to create conditions that happen in the beginning of the universe. And once you get to 10 or 15 nanometers, they just break apart. So he has calculated that the odds of this happening randomly, it's so low that he does not believe that it's going to happen in the observable universe. And we have trillions of stars, and so many numbers. But he says that if you look at the non-observable universe as well, then you're looking at a Google of galaxies or stars. I can't remember exactly the number, but it was a Google. Now, the company Google, Google, is actually a play on the word Google, Googol, because there were two math nerds who developed Google. So a Google is 10 to the power of 100. So if you multiply 100 times, you get to Google. A huge number of, is a huge number. So if you look at that, then there's potential that there could be life out there. So, we are very precious. And, we keep forgetting how precious we are. This planet is extremely precious. And so, please don't forget that. Meanwhile, stay safe. Again, wash your hands before you touch your face. And I'll talk to you later. Thank you.